I knew something was wrong the moment the office lights flickered above me, buzzing like they were trying to whisper a warning. That kind of silence, heavy, expectant, always comes right before a betrayal. I'd learned that from my brother long before I ever stepped foot into corporate life. He taught me with every smirk, every joke at my expense, every time he leaned across the dinner table just to call me the disappointment, as if the word belonged to me more than my own name. Tonight, that word didn't sting. It rang like a distant echo, buried under something colder, sharper, earned. I stood in the hallway outside the conference room with my badge still warm from the reader. The carpet muffled every sound except the quiet rhythm of my breathing. My promotion announcement was scheduled for 7 p.m. He didn't know that. He thought he was walking into his own coronation. That was the beauty of it. He believed his victory was inevitable, ordained, practically promised by the people he manipulated. He thought the world bent for him. But the world bends for the patient, too. A fragment of memory surfaced. The Thanksgiving when he announced, in front of relatives we barely knew, that I couldn't handle pressure. I remember the clatter of silverware, the awkward laughter, the tight smile I held just long enough to get outside before the tears came. He followed me out later, not to apologize, but to tell me not to be so sensitive. As if sensitivity was the crime, not humiliation. As if I should thank him for pointing out my weaknesses. That night, I learned people like him don't break you in one blow. They carve you down, slowly, quietly. But I learned to carve back. A soft ding vibrated against my hip, my phone reminding me that the automated email blast was queued, ready to go. I had timed everything precisely. For months, while he gloated about projects he barely touched, I stayed late, refining strategies, documenting my work, backing up everything to an encrypted drive. I watched the patterns of his shortcuts, his careless edits, his deleted messages he didn't realize were still archived on the server, little cracks he assumed no one would ever look at closely. But I did. I saw all of it. My footsteps echoed lightly as I walked toward the open office area, rows of empty desks stretched out before me like silent witnesses. The city lights glowed through the windows, casting a pale shimmer across the room. It felt like standing inside a held breath, one I had waited years to release. Then I heard him. "Big night," he said, emerging from near the break room with a grin too polished to be real. His suit jacket was slung over his shoulder, his tie loosened like he wanted to look casually victorious. His eyes held that familiar glint. Amusement dipped in arrogance. "Is it?" I asked. He chuckled, sliding his hands into his pockets. "Well, I guess it depends who you ask. My team's excited. Rumor is leadership wants someone decisive at the top." He paused, letting the implication hover. "You know how it is." I did. I knew exactly how it was. I had sat through too many of his commentaries on leadership, on strength, on how I always played too safe. He thought caution was weakness. He never understood that caution is simply the art of seeing further than he could. "Good luck," he added, patting my arm like he was comforting a child. This time, his touch felt like the final trigger. I walked past him without responding, heading toward my office. The air felt charged, as if the building sensed what was coming. I sat behind my desk, opened my email, and watched the seconds slip toward the hour. A flashback caught me off guard. Him rifling through my notes months ago, pretending to help, when he was actually taking pieces of my research to present as his own. I'd watched quietly from the doorway, unseen. That was the moment I stopped trying to win fairly. Some wars aren't won with clean hands. 6:59 p.m. I opened the internal portal where I'd submitted everything. Timelines, reports, cross-referenced documents showing exactly where his numbers didn't align. Not accusations, evidence. Leadership didn't want drama, they wanted clarity, and I provided it with the calm precision of someone who had been preparing for years. 7 p.m. The email went out. My name, my promotion, effective immediately. I didn't need to see his reaction. but fate gave me the gift anyway. He stormed into my doorway less than a minute later, phone in hand, jaw clenched so tight his cheek twitched. That polished grin was gone. "You?" he breathed, as if the word hurt. I held his gaze. "Me? What did you do?" His voice cracked around the edges. "Nothing you didn't set in motion yourself." He shook his head, stepping inside like he needed to physically shrink the space between us to regain control. No, this was supposed to be mine, they said." He cut himself off, realizing he'd said too much. I didn't flinch. They saw what they needed to see. His eyes widened just slightly, the way someone reacts when they realize a quiet door they never noticed was actually unlocked, and someone had walked through it with a camera. "You exposed me," he whispered. "I revealed the truth," I said softly. "You exposed yourself." For a moment, he looked like the brother I once knew, lost, bewildered, frightened by his own reflection. But that passed quickly, smothered by anger. He stepped back, shaking his head as if he could undo this moment by refusing to accept it. He left, without another word. The lights above hummed again, but this time the sound felt different, settled, like the building had exhaled with me. Outside the windows, the city shimmered beneath the night sky, a mosaic of gold scattered across dark glass. I stood there, staring at my own faint reflection layered against the skyline. I wasn't the disappointment. I was the quiet storm he never learned to read. And as the weight of the moment finally eased from my shoulders, I felt something like peace settle into place. Steady, inevitable. Some victories don't roar. They darken the sky, gather slowly, then break open with a single, decisive strike. If you want to hear more stories carved from quiet shadows, stay close.